Hello, in this episode, I'm going to introduce you to something called data types. A data type is something like the type of data we deal with when we are writing our codes. I know some people are wondering out here to say, what's the difference between a variable and a data type? Okay, so here's the difference. When you talk about a variable, it is more like a category, and now a data type, you have specified what you are talking about. Okay, so like for example, in real world, we have living things. So those living things are variables, and those living things can be human, trees, and the like. Those living things are what we call variables. So same applies to programming. Okay, so we have variables equal to something. Okay, so when you're dealing with data types in PHP, you don't have to specify something like car int is equals to Bugatti. No. Okay, so let me open a file called data type. In PHP, the most important data types are uh, strings, integers, functions, arrays, and boolean. Okay, so let me start with strings. So when you're dealing with strings, you need to echo your variable to something like double quotes or a single quote. Our PHP code will detect that we are dealing with a string. Okay, so now what I mean to say is like this: you start your PHP. So here, let me comment out PHP string, PHP string. Okay, so when you're dealing with strings, you need to echo your variable to equate your variable to something with a single or double quotes. Okay, so let's say name. Yes, a name is a string because it has words. Okay, so is it equal to, let's use the double quotes, but you can use any. So name is equals to comfort Sambesh. So when you're dealing with words or letters in PHP, you need to make sure that the variable you have declared is equal to something inside single, 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 or double quotes. So here if I can, so let me say name2, and then here I'm going to use something like double quotes comfort Sambesh. As you can see, this is the same data. So there's no difference between this name and name2 because they are all equating to a string, meaning we have some quotes here. Just make sure that when you're dealing with strings, the quotes are present. Maybe you are doubting. Let me show you. Let me echo it. So let me echo name. Okay, data types. I refresh data types. As you can see, name is comfort Sambesh, even though there's only a single quote. And if I add name2, it's still comfort Sambesh. So it depends with yourself. You can either choose to be using single quotes or double quotes. Okay, so here we are dealing with double quotes. Me, I like double quotes, so let me get rid of this code with single quotes. So let me also talk about integers. So integers, when you hear something like integers in programming, it means numbers. Okay, so when you're dealing with integers in programming, these are the numbers from 0 to 9. So here, let's say let me declare a variable called my name. My name is equals to, you don't when I okay, get this, when you're dealing with integers, you don't need to include anything like this and then you type in the value, otherwise it will take that value as a string. But when you are dealing with integers, just remove these quotes, and then my name is equals to, okay, sorry, not my name but my age is equals to 19, and then I echo my age. As you can see, echo my age 19. Okay, so I forgot to tell you something. We also have floating numbers. So the floating numbers are those numbers with some full stops or commas, especially some numbers with full stops. So we may have something like currencies, or maybe money. When I deal with money, let's say you buy something at 4.99 US dollars. So let's say my money is equals to my money is equals to 4.88 US dollars. And if I echo my money, it should work 4.88. So when you're dealing with numbers with some decimals, you need to use you need to use the floats. So we have the floating numbers and the integers. So the only difference between the floating numbers and the integers is this. The integers have nothing like the dots, commas, and the likes, while the floating numbers, they have the commas, dots, and whatever. So okay, let me go to functions. So functions in PHP, functions, they are like something that come only when you call them. So these functions, you need to declare them, and then if you want to use them, you need to call them. Otherwise, if you go directly, they will not work. These functions I can write, but if I don't call it, nothing will happen. So let me create a simple function. So when you're dealing with function, when it's not in a class, don't worry, I'll talk about classes in some episodes as we go to object-oriented programming. So functions, when it is not in a class, we don't have to type anything, but you need to start function brackets function, and then you say let me give it example, function example. And then so this is a function. So the syntax is this: function, you give it a name, and then you add these two brackets. Inside these brackets you can add something called parameters. So now we have not reached the object oriented programming, we are still in procedural, so I'll not talk about that. And now in this function, let's say it will be saying echo, it's a string, this is an example function, this is an example function, this is an example function. So here, if I refresh the page, as you can see, our page is still blank. I have declared this function, and as you can see, there's even echo to display data on our page, but there's nothing that is happening. As I said earlier on, when you're dealing with function, once you declare a function, it doesn't end like that. You need to call it. So if you want to call your function here, so let's say let me create a variable called fire function. You can call it whatever you want, is equals to example, When you are calling a function, don't forget to add the double quotes example without this. No, just like this, because this function is already declared. So if you do anything like this, it means you are creating another example function. So here, since it's already created, so fire function, and then I say echo fire function. Fire function is equals to example fire function. As you can see, this is an example function, something from this is an example function. So that's all when it comes to functions, but I will go deeper into functions. But don't worry, we are still on the introduction to data types. Okay, so and then let me also talk about arrays, something like arrays. I'll be leaving all these materials in the link in description. Don't forget to check them out. Okay, so arrays. So okay, so what is an array, by the way? An array, the main purpose behind array is to store a huge amount of data separated by commas. It can't make sense if we start writing some data using strings and then commas. No, it can't make sense like that. So when you're dealing with arrays, you need to make sure that you use the array keyword. Okay, so let me say my friends, let me create a variable which is going to be equal to my friends list. So let's say my friends is equals to array, array, oh sorry, my friends is equals to array. Array is a built-in function on its own, don't worry. Array. So here I'm going to say Tizenge, because this is my mate from Wheat Levels, yeah, and I'm still with him right here. And here I'm going to say bright, and third one I'm going to say lucky, and on the other hand I'm going to say Doris. Okay, so here as you can see, we have this data separated by comma. You can do this in any way you want. Just make sure that you separate all the data with commas. So this is going like this. So as you can see here, we have string, comma, string, which means all of this data is inside the my friends array. Okay, so if I want to call this, I just have to say echo my friends, just my friends variable, my friends. And if I refresh my page, oh sorry, when you're dealing with arrays you don't have to use echo, but we have something like print array, which means print arrays. So here I'm going to use print array, my friends. Okay, so the main reason behind using print array is when you're dealing with arrays. Otherwise, if you use print array when you're dealing with strings and some other data types that are not arrays, otherwise it will not work. So if I refresh, my friends, let me try once again. Okay, here we are. So here the arrays, they start from zero index to the maximum limit of the given data. So here on 0 index we have Tzenge, 1 index we have Bright, 3 index we have Doris. Okay, so that's all in this tutorial on PHP data types. Wherever you are not clear, you can leave out a comment And if you really need these files and all the materials I'm using out here, you can check for the link in description. I'll be uploading the files for each and every course. Thank you people for watching this, and don't forget to subscribe, invite your friends and some other mates like okay, we'll meet in the next episode.